This video is going to go through 9.4 part 2 with you. So yesterday we did 9.4 part 1, completing the square, and we talked about what completing the square is. Now today we are completing the square when the a value is bigger than 1. So just remember the a value of the quadratic is going to be the coefficient of the squared term. So in other words, this number right here. So in this quadratic example that's provided right here, the a value is 2. So what we're going to do is follow the steps that are written to the left over here. It says rewrite the quadratic as ax squared plus bx equals c. Same thing as yesterday. In other words, we want to move this 6 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 6, and I get 2x squared minus 8x equals negative 6. Then, so this is done. Step 2, divide the equation by a. The a value is 2, so we're dividing everything by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So we get x squared minus 4x equals negative 3. So that's done. Step 3 is the actual completing the square part of this, where we take half of the b value. Remember we talked about yesterday and previously in this chapter that b is the coefficient of the squared term, or not the squared term, sorry, the x term. So here the b value is negative 4. So we're taking half of negative 4. Take half of negative 4, you get negative 2. And then you're going to square it and add it to both sides. So negative 2 squared is positive 4. So to complete the square, we're going to add 4 to both sides. Remember, what completing the square does is it's going to give us a quadratic equation on this left side that's factorable. And specifically, it factors into the same factor twice. So negative 3 plus 4 on the right side is 1. That step's done. Step 4 is to factor the perfect square trinomial. To factor this, we just say what multiplies to positive 4 and adds to negative 4. So those two numbers would be negative 2 and negative 2. So it'd be x minus 2 squared, because it's that same factor twice. Step 5 is we're just solving this for x. So now to solve it, we're using square roots because we just want to get rid of that squared. So we're going to square root both sides. So when you do that, you get x minus 2, because the squared and the root undo each other, equals plus or minus the square root of 1 is 1. Solve that for x. I'm kind of running out of room, so we're going to add 2. And remember, it might help if you put the 2 before the 1. So I'm going to write it in that way. So 2 plus 1 is 3. 2 minus 1 is 1. So your two answers are 3 and 1. So now we're just going to go through a few more examples of this. If you were here yesterday, this process should seem very familiar. The only difference is this step 2, which is divide by a. So on these examples, we're going to do the same thing we did before. So I'll probably do it a little bit faster. By the way, if you missed yesterday, you should obviously still be paying attention to this, because yesterday is like this, just slightly easier. There is actually also a video on Google Classroom for yesterday, because I happened to miss that day last year. So if you want to check that out, it's in the daily folder on Google Classroom. So now to solve this for x, we need to move c to the other side. Again, the steps are provided on this page for you, so I'm just following those steps. So we get 5x squared plus 10x equals 40. The next step is divide by a, so we're dividing everything by 5. Divide by 5, divide by 5. We get x squared plus 2x equals 8. Now we actually complete the square. So to complete the square, what we're going to do, sometimes I just kind of write the number off to the side. So I'm going to write CTS, complete the square. And I'm just going to write out what I'm doing to both sides. So you take half of the b value, half of 2 is 1, and then you square it. So what I'm doing is I'm adding 1 squared to both sides, which is 1. So to complete the square, I'm adding 1, and I'm adding 1. So on the left side, I have my x squared plus 2x plus 1, my trinomial. On the right side, I have 9. Factor the left side, multiply to 1, add to 2 is 1 and 1. Remember, it will always be the same factor twice, so you can write it like that. Now to solve this for x, I want to get rid of the squared. So to do that, I want to square root it so that the square root and the squared undo each other. So I have x plus 1 equals the square root of 9. I'm going to put plus or minus 3. Solve that for x, we're going to subtract 1. So we get x equals -1 plus or minus 3. Then just do -1 plus 3. -1 plus 3 is +2. -1 minus 3 is -4. So those are the two answers there. And then I'm just going to highlight those really quick. So those are my answers there. Let me just have one more example. So on this one, following these steps again, so here I want to move 3 to the other side. So add 3, we get 3x squared minus 6x equals 93. Then we want to divide by a, so I'm going to divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. I get x squared minus 2x equals 93 divided by 3 is 31. Okay, now to complete the square, I'm going to write off to the side what I'm adding. So to complete the square, I take half of the b value. B is negative, oops, I did not mean to do that. B is -2. So if we take half of that, we get -1. So to complete the square, we're going to add -1 squared to both sides, which again is +1. So I'm just going to add 1 to both sides here. So when I do that, I get x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 32. So then I'm going to factor that. So that factors into, we're thinking of two numbers that multiply to +1 and add to -2. So it's x minus 1 squared, because it's -1 and -1, equals 32. Get rid of the squared, so square root it again. So you get x minus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 32. 32 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to approximate it on the calculator. I know it's going to be 5 point something, because 5 squared is 25 and 6 squared is 36, but square root of 32 is 5.7 approximately. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to say x minus 1 equals plus or minus 5.7. And then to solve that for x, I'm going to add 1. So I get x equals 1 plus or minus 5.7. So 1 plus 5.7 is 6.7. 1 minus 5.7 is -4.7. So those are my answers there, my approximate answers. Technically, this should be a squiggly equal sign, but I'm not being super picky. So now there's a couple you tries on the next page. I would kind of suggest that we pause the video right now for a few minutes so you can try at least that top one. You might need to flip back and forth just to look at these steps, but I want you to quietly give those a try. And then the sub can restart the video, not restart, but play the video again, and I'll just kind of quickly go through those with you. So pause it right now, please. Thank you. So on this first one, we want to move this 48 to the other side. Hopefully you had a chance to try these, or at least one of them. So we get 3x squared minus 18x equals 48. Divide by a. A is 3, so divide by 3. When we do that, we get x squared minus 6x equals 16. Now complete the square. So to complete the square, I take half of that b value. B is -6. So when I take half of it, I get -3. And then I square it. I get +9. So I want to add 9 to both sides. In doing so, I'm going to create a perfect square trinomial on that left side. In other words, something that factors into the same factor twice. So multiply to 9, add to -6 would be -3 and -3. So we want to write it like that. Solve that. Get rid of the squared, so square root it. You get x minus 3 equals plus or minus 5. Solve that, so add 3. So we get x equals 3 plus or minus 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. 3 minus 5 is -2. So those are your two answers there. So if you got that one correct, good. Then there's one more you try that you were supposed to try. So I'll go over this one. So move the c value. So move 4 to the other side. Oops. Hold on. Sorry. I need to get the pen. So move 4 to the other side. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I get 5x squared plus 30x equals 20. Divide by A is 5, so divide by 5. You get x squared plus 6x equals 4. The completing the square process, we take half of b. B is 6, so half of 6 is 3. And then we square it. So again, we get 9 on this one as well. So we're going to add 9 to both sides. So on the left side, we have x squared plus 6x plus 9. On the right side, we have 13. Factor the left side. So multiply to 9, add to 6 is going to be 3 and 3. You get x plus 3 squared equals 13. The reason completing the square works is because now, once we have it in this format, we can use square roots to solve it. So now I'm going to square root both sides to get rid of the square. So I have x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 13. 13 is not a perfect square, so I'm typing it into the calculator right now. Square root of 13 is about 3.6. So I have x plus 3. Really, this should be approximately equal to 3.6, plus or minus. And then I'm going to minus 3, so subtract 3. So you get x is approximately equal to negative 3 plus or minus 3.6. When you take negative 3 plus 3.6, negative 3 plus 3.6 is about positive 0.6. When you take negative 3 minus 3.6, it's about negative 6.6. So those are your two answers. Remember, completing the square can be used on any quadratic. So yesterday we talked about using it on a quadratic where the a value is 1. And then today we talked about using it on a quadratic where the a value is bigger than 1. So at this point, the sub can pass out the homework that you're going to work on for the rest of class. And then on Monday, you'll check that in with me, and then we'll kind of move on with this unit. I will see you then. Have a good weekend. Bye.